The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Present.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Present.
Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Keys. 12 present, you have quorum.
A quorum being present will be led in opening prayer by Pastor John Watson, Jr.
This I recall to my mind. Therefore I have hope. It is of the Lord's mercy we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. Gracious God, Heavenly Father, while we're gathered here today to start a new day of deliberations and collaboration, the events that has happened weigh on our hearts and our minds. Many of our neighbors, our family, was impacted and their lives have been changed. Yet, in this unsettling turn of events, we acknowledge and see your unfailing compassion delivered through the hands and hearts of individual churches, organizations, large and small, corporations, local, state, and federal government, uniting to help and relieve the many needs of our community. For this, we are grateful. Allow your grace to continue to ignite this movement among all. We pray for the family of the resident that lost their loved ones. We as a community pray that your divine comfort will be granted to them at this time and going forward. And now we ask again that you would strengthen this chamber and the mayor's office and all of our elected officials could continue to work and unite with vigor and vitality. Let them reach their goals of rebuilding our great city and serving the people. Allow all of us to receive the inner strength that only comes from you, that inspires us to love and to hope as we rebuild our great city. Into your hands we commit ourselves, our community, our city. Amen.
We'll dispense with our regular order of business to take up the courtesy resolution calendar. Alderman from the 14th, you're recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing resolutions 28 and 29.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to suspend the rules and introduce resolution 28 and 29.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of resolutions 28 and 29. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Front. Door.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
14 aye votes.
Could please place resolutions 28 and 29 at the end of the courtesy resolution calendar. At this time, I would like to invite up Alderwoman from the 1st and her honored guests for the presentation of Resolution 21.
Thank you so much, Madam President and members of the board. Madam Clerk, can you please read the resolution?
Resolution 21, recognizing Sarah Jameson, Miss Trans Missouri 2025. Whereas Sarah Jamison was born July 21st, 1988 in St. Louis, Missouri, as a lifelong St. Louisan. She grew up in St. Louis Hills, graduating from Webster University before a career in the legal field within the 22nd Judicial Circuit private firms, and most recently the Circuit Attorney's Office. Whereas Sarah has been a mainstay presence in the St. Louis drag scene as Sarah Film Nicole, regularly performing for the past 15 years. In 2020, Sarah stepped into her truest, authentic self, beginning her transition, and has since become a major resource for the transgender and gender-expansive community of St. Louis. And whereas she has used the skills from her time in the legal industry to help other trans people navigate the courts for name changes. Whereas she has volunteered her time with the Metro Trans Umbrella Group in support of their mission of bringing together the community of transgender, genderqueer, androgynous, intersex people and their allies in St. Louis area throughout the community, visibly advocacy and education. Whereas Sarah was named Miss Trans Missouri 2025 on March 31st, 2025, at the Trans Day of Visibility March and Rally at City Hall. Whereas in a time where trans people are under constant assault at the local, state, and federal levels, she hopes that her visibility can be a light to her community. And whereas Trans USA National Pageantry's purpose and role is to strive to celebrate, promote awareness of transgender, non-binary, and gender-conforming leaders as noticeable advocates and role models in the community. Whereas Sarah believes in the power of trans community and she continues to hope to display the promise and potential in Missouri, even in spite of the state's hostile attitude towards transgender people. She is striving to be a Miss Trans Missouri for the whole state, representing the whole trans community on a national stage. Whereas outside of her work with the community, Sarah is a proud South City Ward 1 resident with her wife, Brianna, and their two cats, Leah and Tilly. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberation to recognize and congratulate Sarah Jamison on winning this year's 2025 Miss Trans Missouri contest. We further direct the Clerk of the Board of Aldermen to spread a copy of the resolution across the minutes of the proceedings and to prepare a commemorative copy of this resolution to the end that it may be presented to those deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 30th day of May by the Honorable Ann Schweitzer, Alderwoman of the 1st Ward, and the following co-sponsors: Honorable Megan Green, President of the Board; Honorable Shane Cone, Alderman of the 3rd Ward; Honorable Alicia Sanier, Alderwoman of the 7th Ward; Honorable Michael Browning, Alderman of the 9th Ward; Honorable Shameen Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman of the 10th Ward; and the Honorable Rasheen Aldridge, Alderman of the 14th Ward.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for reading the resolution. As you can see, Miss Trans Missouri, Sarah Jamison, has had a long history of living her life for others and advocating for her community. Sarah and I met when we were little kids. We went to St. Gabriel's grade school together. And, we were in honor choir together. She was just a year beneath me in school. And I can speak even then to her vibrancy and her ability to bring people together and to just be a star. I mean, that's always who you've been, and I am so glad to have this moment here at the Board of Aldermen to be able to take the time to recognize you and all that you have done, and I know we'd all love to hear from you.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Jamison, also known as Sarah Femme Nicole, and I am your Miss Trans Missouri 2025. First, I want to give my thanks to the Board of Aldermen for this incredible recognition. I also want to thank my Alderwoman Ann Schweitzer for introducing this resolution and for her work in the 1st Ward, which my wife and I are so proud to reside in. As was just said, Ann and I have known each other since grade school, and I think it's safe to say we've both come a long way from our days in honor choir and band class with Sister Gail. Ann, thank you, and I am so honored to be here right now. As was said, I am a Miss Trans Missouri for the entire state, and in November I hope to show on a national stage what makes this state so special. But today, like every day, I am so proud to be a St. Louisan. I was born here, and I have lived my entire life in the city of St. Louis because I believe in what this city is for so many in this state, a beacon of light in darkness. It's very much in line with what I hope to be with my title. I am who I am because of two truly incredible parents who have shown me the love that all parents should have for their children. They are among my heroes, and I aspire to take their love and compassion and be that light in the dark for my community across the state. I will not mince words. The transgender community of Missouri and of the United States is under attack. It is daily, it is ever present, and it is soul-crushing. But the perseverance, tenacity, love, and the work I see from the transgender community continues to fuel my hope in our struggle. But it's not enough. Today, I'm calling everyone here to action. It is on all of us here, not only to stand with me and with the trans community, but to fight back however we can. Make no mistake, it is hard, exhausting work, but it must happen. The generation of revolutionaries like Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera fought too hard for us to just give up. If it seems overwhelming, I challenge you to focus on the most basic thing we can all do, and that is to continue to push back and challenge the lies about transgender people. My wife and I just finished watching the series Andor, and there's a speech from it that I keep thinking about because it talks about truths, falsehoods, and perception. And I want to share a quote from that with you today. Of all the things at risk, the loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous. When truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest. Right now, that is the reality for all trans people as we fight this seemingly relentless wave of hatred. Our existences are debated as if it's a question. We are the targets of ill-informed legislation meant to erase us. And too often, too many are met with violence, and many have been murdered just for living their lives. That is all a product of the lies and propaganda they tried to make fact. But let me tell you the real truth. Transgender people are not the faceless threat they so desperately want us to be. We're human beings, living in the same time and world as everyone else, and we need your help to ensure that despite everything, that trans people not only continue to survive, but thrive. They want to instill fear into us, and I will not let them. I choose to be unafraid, stand up, and speak out, because to quote my pageant idol, Erica Andrews, when you conquer fear, you can conquer anything. We're here, we have always been here, and we are not going anywhere. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 6th.
Madam President, I just want to say thank you and congratulations for being here, and I would move that we make this resolution. Thank.
Been moved by the Alderwoman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we make resolution number 21 in bank. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. It is now in bank, which means that every member of the board is now signed on as a co-sponsor to the resolution. Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise this morning to celebrate the accomplishment of a good friend and someone who, for those of you that aren't familiar with the LGBTQIA+ community, we have what we call our chosen family, which are folks in our community that welcome us with open arms and love and compassion and understanding. And I so appreciate all of the work that you do each and every day for our trans community, but also for our broader St. Louis community. It means the world to me that you put in that time and effort and energy and love to not only our St. Louis community, but also our chosen family. For those of you in the chamber or at home that might not be familiar with the trans community, there was a really wonderful book that I read in my young queer youth called She's Not There. It was written by Dr. Jennifer Finney Boylan. And it was a really wonderful perspective to be able to be welcomed through a book into that community and understand the personal aspects of transitioning. And so I think that when we have moments like these, we also try to make them teachable as well. And I think if folks are open to learning, crack open a book or get it on your Kindle and learn a little bit more and open your minds and your hearts to something that you might not have otherwise understood. And I'm so excited. It's always wonderful when we have our community present in this chamber and able to recognize them for all of your accomplishments and work. And it makes me feel at home in this chamber when we have members of our LGBTQ community. And as we're heading into Pride Month, I think it's entirely appropriate that we have this honor and recognition for you. And again, my sincere thanks for everything that you do, Sarah.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Well, seeing none, I would like to invite everybody over to the stage if we could get a picture with you. Come to the front.
Come on, Daniela.
Let's give Sarah one more round of applause. At this time, I will invite the alderman for the 14th to approach the dais for presentation of resolution number 28.
Almost lost it all. All right. Madam Clerk, could you please read resolution number 29? 28. 28. No, I was right.
For Rebecca? 29. Is it for Rebecca?
Yeah, 28. 28.
Whereas Laura Barrett has been a timeless champion for workers' rights, dedicating over 3 decades for fighting for justice as a labor and community organizer.
Madam.
Oh, it was 20. Resolution 29, honoring the memory of Ms. Rebecca Wright. Whereas the office of the City Councilor has experienced the loss of Ms. Rebecca Wright, which loss is deeply felt by members of that office and her clients throughout the city. Whereas during her 27 years of government service following her graduations from Westminster College in 1995 and the University of Missouri School of Law in 1998, first as an assistant attorney general and then as an associate city councilor. Ms. Wright always carried out her duties with professional demeanor and dedication that have gained her the admiration and respect of her colleagues, peers, and clients. Whereas Rebecca Wright served as a member of the City Councilor's office since April of 2007. Whereas over the last 18 years, Ms. Wright provided excellent and multifaceted legal analysis to the City of St. Louis and its agencies and provided corporate counsel advice and oversight. Whereas Ms. Wright engaged in a diverse practice serving city agencies include the Board of Adjustments, the Police Retirement System, the Tax Increment Financing Commission, and the St. Louis Agency on Training and Education. Whereas in her time as counsel, Ms. Wright expertly advised and attended many board and commission meetings and innumerable project-related and staff meetings for matters large and small. Whereas Ms. Wright's legal advice furthered development of dozens of major projects throughout the city, ensured the best possible outcomes in disputes, and protected the integrity and functionality of many city agencies, and assisted cabinet members and city staff alike in carrying out their mission successfully and legally. And whereas the City of St. Louis wishes to convey its appreciation to Ms. Wright for her many years of dedication service to the city and its community, and express its condolence to her family. Now therefore be it resolved by this Honorable Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberation to recognize and honor the life and legacy of Rebecca Wright and her contribution to legal matters for the city. And we further direct the clerk of the board to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of the proceedings and prepare a commemorative copy to the end that it may be presented to the family at a time and place deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 30th day of May, 2025 by the Honorable Rasheen Aldridge, Alderman of the 14th Ward.
Thank you, Madam Clerk and members of the board. I did not have the honor to know Ms. Wright, but I've heard a lot of amazing things about her. I know several of our colleagues have worked with her, and I wish I did because it seemed like she was truly a trailblazer for the city of St. Louis. I've heard how she was able to be a huge help with Slate during their trying times, and I heard she was the queen of zoning. So if there was any zoning issues, you knew to go to Ms. Wright. And just on behalf of the Board of Aldermen, I know some of my colleagues who I've worked with will be able to say a little bit more of their experience, but being able to carry this resolution and to learn about her and to being her alderman in the mighty 14th Ward is just an honor, and from the Board of Aldermen, just want to let her family know we appreciate all of her years of service, all of the amazing things that she done, not just for the city, but for many individuals throughout the city of St. Louis. And we at the Board of Aldermen and her passing wanted to be able to acknowledge her legacy, the work that she's done for this office, and the great work that she's done for the city of St. Louis.
Thank you. I'm Howard Wright III. I'm Becky's older brother. I came in from Kansas City early this morning. And let me first of all thank the City Council, the mayors of St. Louis that have been in office while Becky served as a public servant, for the support that they gave her for over 10 years while she had stage 4 colon cancer. And she fought for over 10 years and managed to beat the odds. MD Anderson summed it up at one point that they had never had anyone in her condition survive this long. She also fought equally as hard for the city of St. Louis. And even into her waning days, I was looking at her in her bed and she says, "Get me my laptop, there's work I have to do." She was ferociously committed to doing her job and fighting and doing the right thing always for the city of St. Louis and its citizens. Again, I thank you, and the support from the family is really appreciated. And I wish more of the family could have been here this morning, but this has been really hard on my elderly parents. They really wanted to be here, but we just couldn't get that worked out this morning. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. We have a fairly newer board of alderpersons down here, so I'm probably one of a few that has had the opportunity to work with Becky in the past, and I can say that she was always very tenacious. She was always very knowledgeable. She had a good sense of humor about her, and you could tell that she cared very much about the city of St. Louis, our citizens. I had the chance to work with her on a couple zoning-related bills, as the alderman from the 14th pointed out, and zoning matters that were coming before the department and Board of Adjustments and all those fun bureaucratic processes. And she was helpful in terms of navigating city government because of her knowledge, but you could always tell that she was very passionate about what she did and cared very much about the city of St. Louis and safeguarding our interests. And so I want to echo my colleagues' condolences to you and your family on the loss. It is never easy losing someone who's that much of a giant here at City Hall, but also I'm sure in the family as well. And so my sincere condolences on her passing and your loss.
Alderman from the 5th.
I also knew Becky. Becky and I were classmates at Westminster College. We had many, many classes together. To call Becky determined would be an understatement. I also know her as very competitive and intelligent. And then as young lawyers, graduating law school at the same time, we had several cases together on opposite sides when she was an assistant attorney general. And again, she was always determined, no cut breaks, even to somebody who was a college classmate. I remember her well. I did not have the opportunity to work with her at the board, but I too would like to express my personal condolences to the family and to you, sir, as well as mom and dad. Becky was tenacious and determined, and we will remember her fondly.
Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a motion that we pass this resolution en banc.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we make Resolution 29 in bank. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 29 is now in bank. Is there any discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, just want to say that we are all so very sorry for your loss and the longevity that Becky has left on our city. The imprint will go on for a very, very long time. So our condolences are with you. Our hearts are with you. And just know that so many folks in this building have been touched by her and will continue to think about her legacy for years to come. So thank you. All right. That Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized in the motion to adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the courtesy resolutions consent calendar.
Been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I have two this morning. First, I want to start off with the Church of God in Christ here with thousands of saints celebrating the 75th annual Women's International Convention. The Honorable Mother Barbara McCool Lewis is the general supervisor. When I made comments and remarks to them this week, I told them that as I carry their energy spirit out back into the community that they gave me hope, right? Because anytime you see that many people coming together, it gives you inspiration, encouragement, and hope. So welcome to St. Louis, the 75th Annual Women's International Church of God in Christ Convention. Enjoy your time here. I know you all are giving back today at Bishop Hankerson's church. I know there will be plenty of worship, and we are welcoming you here. And then I would like to celebrate with my church, Morning Star Missionary Baptist Church in East St. Louis, under the direction of my pastor, Pastor Darius Miller, a 100th anniversary. We celebrate this weekend. I love my church family, and I can't wait to get over there and celebrate 100 years of service, not just in East St. Louis, not just in those walls, but in the community. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. As always, the men and women, children, senior citizens of the elevated 11th Ward are always my honored guests. I thank them so much for their continued support and the way that they are coming together to work in community as we are still working through the damage from the tornado. Additionally, I want to thank our refuse and our streets department. They are clearing primary and secondary streets. People are feeling less stressed because they're beginning to really see significant progress in cleaning up and clearing away. Additionally, if you look upstairs here, you will see Maurice Meredith. Maurice is a member of the elevated 11th Ward. He is my personal photographer. He has truly traveled the world, photographing many notable people throughout his time as a photographer. He's a veteran as well, U.S. Navy. And I want to make sure that I let you know I have a shirt for you, Maurice. So the next time we get together, I got to get you your elevated 11th Ward shirt. Thank you.
Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I see Jason Speakerman with the carpenters up there. There's a pillar in the way, so I don't know if there's any more members of organized labor up there, but I'd like to have organized labor be my honored guest today. It's been amazing to see what virtually every organization that's AFL-CIO affiliated has done in response to the storm response, whether it's volunteering, donating, people who are, working for a living, who are getting done with their day job and then going out and doing the same type of work for free in the community to help out their neighbors is truly incredible to see. And I thank them all for that. And thank you.
Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe the Alderwoman from the 12th had her hand up before I was at the mic.
Great. Alderwoman from the 12th.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. As the Alderwoman from the 11th said, I want to thank all the residents of the 12th Ward who have been working together. I've never seen such a tight-knit community at this point. Everybody understands that some things have to be put aside because the tornado was such widespread damage in the 12th Ward. I also want to thank the firefighters who have just been marvelous. I'm not going to say which ones they were because I'll forget somebody, but there's an organization that has been going out, and they have been working with one of our hardware stores, and they have been tarping and putting wood on people's houses for free. And I appreciate that. I want to thank all the elected officials, even from the county, that have showed up, because we've been feeding people since about the second day that this happened. And we've used the site of Cope Brilliant Presbyterian Church, which was leveled just about on the corner of Labadie and Greer at Marcus. We've been using that to feed people and hand out supplies that people have donated. And what's been so much of a miracle about that site is that right across the street was a senior building that belongs to Cope Brilliant, and that building was not touched. So the church was leveled, and that's heartbreaking for many people in the community, but no one was in there. But the senior building had a lot of people in there, and that stands very tall. as a tribute to what God can do, even in the middle of a tornado. Also want to thank a particular somebody I've forgotten to thank before is the sheriff of the city of St. Louis, Alfred Montgomery. When we had that tornado, he went and helped. We had a senior building that did get hit, and I have 7 senior buildings. And he went out and he helped evacuate those people to a safe space at another church. I appreciate that. He ran errands for us, whatever we've needed done, he's done that. There was no task that was too small. And whatever it was, if we said, hey, we need you to do this, can you go pick up this person? Can you deliver the person? He has done that, and says that's part of his duty as being a sheriff, is looking out for the people in the city of St. Louis. And last of all, I want to thank my new legislative assistant, Joseph Palm, or Joe Palm, as we all call him, because he has been amazing, out way past his time that he should be working. At 10 or 11 o'clock at night, he's still calling me and saying, I'm doing this, Alderwoman, I'm doing this, I'm taking care of this, anything else you need. So I really appreciate the hard work that you put in, Joe, and all the volunteers and all the people who show how much they care about the city of St. Louis. And I want to also thank Amron. Amazing job you did with getting the electric back on. Sometimes we see 20 or more trucks in the 12th Ward on different streets, and we are slowly getting everybody's electric back on. There are still a few people that don't have it, but mostly we are back up to full strength, except for those instances where a tree is on somebody's house and they can't turn it back on. I never thought I would be thanking a utility, but just did a great job in getting out there. And I want to thank the mayor because she continues to be a leader and meeting with people and making them know that they are being heard at City Hall. She's met with a lot of the Black ministers at different meetings that we've had. And she's pushing herself almost to the limits to make sure that everybody understands that they are included, and this is an entire city. I want to thank anybody that I'm forgetting, because there's always someone that you forget to thank. And usually the Alderman from the 11th pops back up and said, oh, I forgot this. So I'm going to just do a blanket thank you and say, I really, really do appreciate the love that the 12th Ward has seen from everybody. And we continue to need your help and prayer. And we are putting together a plan about how we do not lose population. I have had several suggestions that I am working out that I hope to make ordinances about how we keep people in the city, that we don't lose them permanently, with such things as building rent with option to own, so that the people with first right to the people who live in the community. Those are the kind of things we will be working on, paying people's insurance, not premium, but the part that you have to pay when you don't have enough money to pay all of it, and if you can't pay all of it, to find some way to help with your insurance payments or your not deduction, but whatever. I can't think of the word now. But anyway, so we are looking at ways to address you and know that we do not want anybody to leave the city. We want to keep our residents in the city of St. Louis, and we're going to do everything we can. And we're not trying to take your houses. We're not trying to condemn your houses. We're not trying to blight with eminent domain. We're trying to work with the city to make sure all those who want to stay can stay. And for those of you who've moved out to the city, we invite you to come back and move into the city and be part of the solution. Thank you so much to everyone.
Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I think the word that my colleague from the 12th was looking for was deduction or deductible. But I do sometimes wonder if we should move announcements to the beginning of the agenda versus honored guests. So I would like to have as my honored guest this morning someone who unfortunately is not with us today, but is with us every other day. And that's my Executive Secretary, Lamisha Bird. Today is her birthday. So I would like to have Lamisha as my honored guest today.
Alderman from the 9th.
Thank you. So it's not any mystery why we have so many people to thank this morning. We've really seen the best of St. Louis in the last couple of weeks, and I'm no exception. I'd like to also have city workers as my special guests this morning, whether it's the building division or the streets department or the parks, recreation and forestry, or any of the city workers who are just working overtime, giving up their vacations, really just breaking their backs to help our residents out. On that same note, I've seen the community step up, and I want to have as my special guests some Ninth Ward residents, and including a resident from Ladue, who I ran into the other day, who had come into the city, Allie, her cousin Allie, and Brittany. I met you, and you were out on a street that you did not live on, and you were paying out of your own pocket for dumpsters for that street so that they could get back to normal. And that was an incredible gesture that I know you're probably out there right now today still helping, and I think that's incredible. I think that's the kind of work that we all need to be doing in order to help our city recover. And lastly, I want to thank, he's usually here, I don't see him today, but Hank Milford and Outfront Media, as well as DDI Media. These are two billboard companies, and you think, how could a billboard company help during a disaster? But they're donating the vinyls from their billboards that they're not using anymore as tarping material. And it actually works really well because they're very large, they're weather resistant, and they're shipping down hundreds of these things from all over the country. So just another example of how people are stepping up in every direction. So I just want to thank everyone in this city who's doing their part right now and encourage us to keep doing so, because it's going to be a long road to recovery, but I know that we have it in us to do the very best for each other.
Any further announcements or introduction of honored guests? Sorry, it feels like we're on announcements. Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Hate to be redundant, but I also want to have all the folks in the 7th Ward as my honored guest. At every neighborhood meeting, the question I get the most is, where can I go donate? Where can I volunteer? And it has just been so heartwarming to see you all really extend yourselves and go out and volunteer and meet. There was a fundraiser recently for Peter and Paul Services. They have a facility in Benton Park West for some emergency shelter, and they got a donor to match to quadruple donations. And I sent a message out to a few folks, and we were able to raise a couple of $1,000s very, very quickly. So I'm just amazed at that. Really shout out to the residents. And I also really want to give a special shout out. I know all the neighborhood improvement specialists are really overextending themselves and are going really hard, and in particular Barb Potts, every time, like, she calls me every day trying to help someone get housed. She's going above and beyond, and she's actually been assigned to help out with some of the National Guard efforts. So I want to thank her and all of our neighborhood improvement specialists, and also want to thank our first responders. Officer Whittaker was at a neighborhood meeting yesterday, and he's off work, and all of them are working 12-hour shifts to help out with what's going on. So I also really want to thank them for all of their efforts. It has just been amazing to see. I mean, obviously city workers and folks who work for the city, and our city has a strong place of philanthropy and community service, but it has been so inspiring to see that really come out and see people who already have so much responsibility go the extra mile and figure out how we can help our neighbors and how we can help our city.
Thanks. Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you. I want to echo my colleagues and the city workers and everybody, really everybody in the region that's been helping out with this disaster relief. My honored guest is the new Streets and Traffic Liaison, Sean Hadley. Thank you. Streets delivered some cones. I want to also say, as my honored guests who are not here, we've been running a South Side supply drive. We've estimated about 50 different, between U-Hauls, trucks, and vans, gathering supplies. And when I thank Megan Frank and Craig Young of Power Creative, who've opened up their doors, along with a thanks of people here who have helped sort supplies, drive them up, and all the folks who've come from. We have folks come from Franklin County, from Imperial, South City to donate. And I also want to, honor a guest who's usually here, Mr. Dan Gunther, who deserves a big thanks and probably many, many hours of overdue sleep, but really appreciate his hard work and just enthusiasm during a time of crisis and making sure that people get everything they need and communicating to us.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the approval of the minutes from Thursday, May 22nd, Tuesday, May 27th, and Wednesday, May 28th, 2025.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we approve the minutes from Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, and Wednesday, May 28th, 2025.
Been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we approve the minutes from Thursday, May 22nd, Tuesday, May 27th, and Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
We have none.
We can dispense with line items 7 through 11, first reading of board bills.
Board Bill 22, sponsored by Alderwoman Schweitzer, an ordinance making appropriation for the payment of the operating expenses, capital expenses, including lease purchase agreements, and debt services expenses of the Parking Division of the Treasurer's Office for fiscal year July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 in the sum of $20,764,900, including $1,980,442 for capital improvement containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 25, sponsored by Alderman Cone and President Green, an ordinance amending Title 8, Airports and Aviation Code of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis to add a new chapter pertaining to car rental operations at City of St. Louis Lambert International Airport containing a severability clause. Board Bill 26, sponsored by Alderman Browning, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service to conditionally vacate above surface, subsurface, and subsurface rights for vehicle, equestrian, and pedestrian travel in the LaSalle Street from Dillon Drive to Angel Avenue in the City of St. Louis, Missouri, as hereinafter described in accordance with the Charter Authority and in conformity with Section 1.4 of Article 21 of the Charter, imposing certain conditions on such vacation. Board Bill 27, sponsored by Alderman Browning, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service to conditionally vacate above surface, and subsurface rights for vehicle and equestrian and pedestrian travel in an irregular strip of Dillon Drive, beginning at the easternmost 10 feet, beginning at the south right-of-way line of Shodo and continuing southwardly to the south right-of-way lane of LaSalle Street in the City of St. Louis, as hereinafter described, in accordance with the Charter Authority and in conformity with Section 1.4 of Article 21 of the Charter, and imposing certain conditions on such vacation. That's the extent of first reading of board bills.
Reference to committee of board bills.
To the Public Infrastructure Committee, Board Bill 22, 26, and 27. To Transportation and Commerce, Board Bill 25. That's the extent of reference to committee of board bills.
Second reading report of standing committees.
The following board bill was reported out of the Budget Committee with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 21, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge. The board bill recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment authorized the St. Louis Treasurer's Office to accept a Financial Empowerment Center program grant up to initial amount of $20,000 plus a subsequent anticipated award up to $300,000 for the project implementation by entering into a memorandum of understanding with the cities of Financial Empowerment Fund, authorizing the expenditure of such funds to the extent received, authorizing contracts or other documents to expend such fund to the extent received, containing an emergency clause. The following bill was reported out of Public Infrastructure with a due pass recommendation. Board Bill 20, sponsored by Alderwoman Keys, President Green, and Alderman Browning. An ordinance authorizing the honorary street name Costello Way pursuant to Ordinance 68937, which shall begin at the intersection of Laclede Avenue and Vandervander Avenue and run east on Laclede Avenue to the intersection of Laclede Avenue and Grand Boulevard. The following board bill was reported out of Public Safety with a due pass recommendation. Board Bill 14, sponsored by Alderwoman Keys and the following co-sponsors: Alderman Narayan, Alderwoman Velazquez, Alderwoman Sanye, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, and Alderman Aldridge. An ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment authorizing the Department of Public Safety to accept the 2024 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Award of up to $351,935 from the U.S. Department of Justice, appropriating such funds to the Department of Public Safety, authorizing the expenditures of such funds to the extent received, authorizing contracts and other documents to extend such fund to the extent received, containing an emergency clause. That's the extent of second reading. Report of standing committees.
Alderwoman from the 11th, you are recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of moving Board Bill 20 to the perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules so that Board Bill 14 as well as 20 can be moved to the perfection consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 11th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of moving Board Bills 14 and 20 to the perfection consent calendar. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Orion. Alderman Devotie.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. 13 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 11th. If you could please place Board Bills 14 and 20 on the perfection consent calendar.
So noted.
Report of special committees.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 15, Board Bills for perfection consent.
Board Bill 14, sponsored by Alderwoman Keys and the following co-sponsors: Narayan, Velazquez, Sanye, Clark Hubbard, and Aldridge. An ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment authorizing the Department of Public Safety to accept the 2024 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Award up to $351,935 from the U.S. Department of Justice, appropriating such funds to the Department of Public Safety, authorizing the expenditure of such funds to the extent received, authorizing contracts and other documents to expend such fund to the extent received, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 20, sponsored by Alderwoman Keys, President Green, and Alderman Browning. An ordinance authorizing the honorary street name Costello Way pursuant to ordinance number 68937, which shall begin at the intersection of Laclede Avenue and Vandervander Avenue and run east on Laclede Avenue to the intersection of Laclede Avenue and Graham Boulevard. That's the extent of the perfection consent calendar.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the perfection consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt the perfection consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board Bills for perfection.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 17, report of engrossment.
Board Bill 3, Board Bill 6, Committee Sub, Board Bill 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 23 as amended on the floor, and Board Bill 24.
Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we place Board Bills 8 and 9 on the informal calendar.
Madam Clerk, if you could please place Board Bills 8 and 9 on the informal calendar.
I'm sorry, and 23 as amended. Oh, I'm sorry, not.
Just do 8 and 9 for now. I want to make sure we
have.
have discussion on that.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. And also thank my Alderman from the 10th because she always would fill in the gap. I know it's not script. But Power 10. So Board Bill 23, we passed earlier this week, and it was part of another board bill that from the city of St. Louis, working with the mayor's office and the president's office, trying to fast track to bring relief to people that have been impacted by this recent tornado. Our rules state anytime an amendment is made that bill has to lay over 72 hours. So last Wednesday, we did make some update language, again, working in partnership with the president, the mayor's office, wanted to just ensure as we amended impact attendance fund that we capture the net to make sure that the tornado victims would also tap into this. And at the same time, I want to be clear, hopefully we'll be having a meeting soon to move this forward. But at the same time, as this will be eventually passed, we still are working to actually set the program up and to make sure that this program that's being administered from Department of Human Services, who's been doing a really great job. Ms. Valerie Russell has been working around the clock to expedite this program and make sure it's set up. So even though we probably will not be passing this today, this is not a hold for people who have been impacted by the storm of anything. This is giving us a little bit more time to make sure the program will be set up, and we'll be coming back very soon to get this passed and hopefully be adding even more additional funds. But with that, Madam President, I would move that we put Board Bill 23 as amended on the informal calendar.
Madam Clerk, if you could please place Board Bill 23 as amended on the informal calendar.
So noted.
Third reading and final passage of board bills consent.
Board Bill 3, 6 committee sub, 7, 11, and Board Bill 12. And 24.
24.
And 24.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt the third reading, final passage of board bills on consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills on the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to adopt the aforementioned bills. Report of finally passed and signed by the President.
We have none. I'm sorry, report and finally passed by the President. Board Bill 3, 6 committee sub, 7, 11, 12, and 24.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix her signature hereto to the end that these may become law. First reading resolutions in reference to committee.
Resolution 23, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, President Green, and the following co-sponsors: Alderwoman Schweitzer, Alderman Cone, Alderman Ryan, Alderman Devote, Alderwoman Sanye, Alderman Browning, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Keys, and Alderwoman Tyus, urging President Trump to deploy federal disaster relief funds to the St. Louis region.
Alderman from the 14th, you're recognized on the first reading resolution number 23.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to
Unanimous consent.
unanimous consent for resolution number 23.
Hearing no objection to unanimous consent, Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Resolution 23 is, again, just in the spirit of collaboration and partnership as a resolution that I've been in conversations with the mayor's office to ensure, as they are working with our federal delegation, our Congressman Wesley Bell, who's been on the ground doing amazing work, as well as our federal senator, Josh Hawley, and Eric Schmidt. Even though they are, really pushing the president to make sure that disaster FEMA relief is moved here to the city of St. Louis so that people can get relief. As I talked to the mayor's office, we thought this would be also just another unified way to show that we are also, demanding, but also, asking and really encouraging the president to move as quick as possible on this federal FEMA relief so that people can get help. And with that, I would move to adopt resolution number 23.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt resolution number 23. Is there any further discussion? Alderman, you may proceed.
Can I inquire?
If you would like to inquire.
Of the Alderwoman of the 12th Ward?
Would the Alderwoman from the 12th yield to questioning from the Alderman from the 14th?
Could I say no for once? Of course I will.
Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Alderwoman. How you doing today?
I'm fine, and yourself?
Good, good. Did you see the updated language in the new whereas clause that we added? One of your...
I did, and I added my name. It didn't have to be my language. I wanted that to be the language. So I was fine with whatever that you did, as long as it was a bipartisan. So I was totally fine with it.
I didn't see it on...
I guess you weren't... The clerk and I but we emailed back and forth, and I thought you were on that chain, but I guess you weren't.
Probably not. Okay, I see it's added. Thank you. I don't think I'm missing nobody, but Madam President, can I move to in-bank resolution 23?
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 11th, that we bank resolution number 14. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Resolution 23 is now in bank. Alderman, you may proceed.
With that, I close.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt resolution 23. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carries.
That's the extent of first reading of resolutions in reference to committees.
Second reading resolutions, committee reports, and adoption.
We have none.
Can dispense with line item 23, miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
Can dispense with line item 25, announcements.
Saturday, May 31st, 2025, Budget and Public Employees will have a webinar at 10 a.m. for public testimony. June the 2nd, 2025, Budget and Public Employees will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 9 a.m. Tuesday, June 3rd, special full board meeting in the chambers at 10 a.m. HUDs will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 11 a.m. Thursday, June 5th, 2025, Budget and Public Employees will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 9 a.m. Personnel and Administration Committee will have a webinar at 2 p.m. Friday, June 6th. June 6th, 2025, full board meeting in the chambers at 10 a.m. And also on Monday, June 2nd, 2025, the Budget and Public Employees will have public comments starting at 9:30 a.m. That's the extent of the announcements.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Thank you, Clerk Rogers, for reading that. I just want to echo again, tomorrow via webinar will be our second from the Budget Committee, our second public testimony, and also want to thank the President Office for setting up folks who may not have access to internet during this time can go to the Central Library on the third floor to be able to, on the second floor, to be able to testify and have their voice heard. There will be a station set up that the library is working with our committee to make sure that folks will be able to testify on that. And then on Monday, June the 2nd at 9, we will, we're changing the schedule a little bit because we're going to have our sheriff come in to do some follow-ups, and most likely we'll get to our last public testimony roughly about 9:30, 10 before budget goes in to do amendment process to send it to ENA. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? I do want to just provide clarity that we will be having another special board meeting Tuesday at 10 a.m. for the purposes of finally passing Board Bill 23 as amended. As the Alderman from the 14th said, it's in the charter, it says if we amend a bill on perfection, that it has to lay over for 72 hours before it can be finally passed. So if today does not meet that 72 hours, which is then we are holding it over and having a meeting early next week in order to get that passed. And in the meantime, the administration has been working on the application. Once that bill passes, the next step will be for that application to be approved through the HUD's committee. And we've been working with the Alderwoman Clark Hubbard on the timing of that and hope that that is next week as well. So once this passes, we can start to get aid into people's hands as quickly as possible. But we expect that Tuesday meeting will be pretty short. It's the only thing we'll be taking up at that time, unless there is some bill from the mayor's office we end up getting before then. So I won't completely close the door on that, but as of right now, that is just the purpose, to make sure that we abide by the charter and have that 72-hour layover before final passage. With that, Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. One more announcement. This Sunday at 1 p.m. at St. Louis Place Park, we will be honoring and dedicating a bench to Captain David Dorn, who was killed during the uprising. This is the 5th year anniversary of his death, and his daughter and the community is coming together just to acknowledge him with an honorary bench and a plaque in the St. Louis Place Park community. His daughter wanted me to extend an invitation to all of the Board of Aldermen members to be able to come and celebrate. I know I'll be there. We'll have the mayor there, and I believe President will be there as well, and other police departments, and wanted me to extend the invitation to the full board. If you can make it, 1 p.m., St. Louis Place Park, in honor of Captain Dorn of the 5-year anniversary. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you, President Green. Two announcements, two very different announcements. One, we are wrapping up our South City supply drive. So we are collecting supplies for tornado relief through tomorrow at 3221 Oak Hill Avenue from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We'll also need volunteers. So if you want to donate or volunteer, we'll be there. We need volunteers at 1 and 3 p.m. for loading and unloading today. And then the second announcement is on Sunday at 10 a.m., we will have the official community dedication of the McDonald Dog Park. Thanks in part to you, President Green. When you were Alderwoman, you had a participatory budgeting session that residents said that they wanted a dog park, and now we're getting one. So it will make the 3rd dog park in the 6th ward, which means it will have the most dog parks of anywhere in the city. It's the city's first fully accessible dog park, and has some really fancy, cool turf that if you want the details, I can tell you. So please bring yourself and your 4-legged friends. McDonald Dog Park at
Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I want to announce that this Sunday at the Rita Forest Center, there will be a food share going on. There were some residents, particularly in the Gravois Park neighborhood, who had some power outages, and especially some senior citizens just recovering food on a fixed income. It's difficult, and so there will be a food share, and we're also going to connect some resources for some of the resource hubs in our city to make those available. I am aware of 2 blocks in particular that could really use the resource, and so myself and some volunteers are going to take some groceries personally. But if there's anyone else in the 7th or in the neighborhood that could use the resources and you're not able to make it to the food share, send me an email. We will absolutely coordinate getting resources to you, and we are also potentially looking at having some utility assistance available as well at the food share. Just understand that this is a difficult time for many folks. And then my second announcement is that we have our 6th town hall for the 7th Ward that is coming up. It will be on June 18th at the Stray Dog Theater. It is going to be talking about public safety with the focus on what that looks like now that the state has taken over St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. We will be joined by Chief Tracy of St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, by President Green, by the Director Milberg of Policy from the Mayor's Office, and by Representative Fuchs, who is the state representative for the Tower Grove East neighborhood. So I have a RSVP link up. We've already gotten a nice amount of RSVPs, but we obviously, if you want to join efforts to go knock doors in your neighborhood, we're going to go knock in every neighborhood to tell folks about the town hall, and we will have childcare and refreshments as usual. We also will have a resource fair that starts at 5:30, even though the town hall won't start till 6, where Treasurer Lane will be joining us, and we'll be doing some parking amnesty. So if you have any fines or fees, come on out. We will waive all the fines and fees so long as you pay the initial amount. And we will also have our new streets liaison there as well during the resource fair. I think he stepped away, but he will be joining us during that resource fair as well. So just wanted to give those updates. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. All members are present this morning.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adjourn until Tuesday at 10 a.m.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adjourn until Tuesday at 10 a.m. in the Board of Aldermen chambers. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.